Hey guys, JC3D Yu-Gi-Oh here with an Infinitrack deck profile for you guys today. Now, I'm running a little low on actual good content right now, so I figured since I have a lot of decks laying around and this one's pretty recently released, I'd make a deck profile on it. So without further ado, here you go, Infinitrack deck profile, April 2019. Okay, so to start things out, we're going to be running 3 Infinitrack Harvester. Now with this guy, if he's normal or special summoned, you can add one Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand except himself. And you can target one other machine monster you control, and the levels of both that monster and himself become the combined original levels of the two monsters. Now another card that shares this same second effect is going to be the 3 Infinitrack Anchor Drills that I run. Now, they both share the second effect, but what makes this one different than Harvester is that Anchor Drill, if he's normal or special summon, you can special summon one Earth machine monster from your hand in defense position except himself. Now, these are the 2 under level 5 Infinitrack monsters in the deck. Now, I believe they're definitely staple 3-ofs within an Infinitrack deck. They both are really good, and because of this being level 2 and this being level 4, what they do is that when you have another level 5 on the field and this guy, you can make a rank 7, and then if you have a level 5 on the field and this guy, you can make a rank 9. So that's how you do those level 7 and level 9 plays in this deck, which we'll get to a little later when we look at the Xyz monsters. Next up, the best level 5 in the deck and the only 3 of level 5 is going to be Infinitrack Trencher. Now this guy is really good, and it's not only but definitely due to the fact that he has 500 attack. Because of that, he's a machine dupe target, which we'll get to that when we get to the spell lineup. Now, you contribute one Earth machine monster and special summon this card from your hand in defense position. Now, all of the level 5 Infinitrack share this first effect. Now, the unique effect with Trencher is that you can banish him from the graveyard and target one level 5 or lower Infinitrack monster in your graveyard, except himself, and special summon that monster in defense position. Next up, we're going to run a 2 of the level 5 Infinitrack Tunneler. Now, Tunneler is basically, he shares the first effect like all the other level 5 Infinitrack monsters, and his second effect, his unique effect, is that he's basically a pot of avarice for the deck. You can banish him from the graveyard and target 5 Earth machine monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 2 cards. Next up, another 2 of level 5 is going to be Infinitrack Crab Crane. Now, like the others, he shares the first effect, and his unique effect is that you can banish one machine monster from your graveyard and add one Outrigger extension from your deck to your hand. Now, another thing is that we have one copy of Infinitrack Drag Shovel, which this guy searches out the trap, whereas Crab Crane searches the spell Outrigger extension. Drag Shovel, you can remove from play one machine from your graveyard and add a spin turn from your deck to your hand. So the rest of the monsters that we run that are not Infinitracks are 3 Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede. Now, I know he's technically trained support, but I guess as you've noticed with the Infinitracks, they are Earth machine monsters, so naturally they kind of work together. Sadly, Infinitracks run off of like level 5s, level 7s, and level 9s, so I don't think they'll ever truly synergize with rank 10 trains, but this guy's the exception because he's just overall really good. Now, if this card is normal or special summon, you can target one Earth machine monster in your graveyard except himself and special summon it in defense position but negate its effects. You can target one other face-up monster you control, and the level of that monster or this card becomes the level of the other. You cannot declare attacks the turn you activate this effect except with Xyz monsters, and you can only use each effect of him once per turn. Now the thing with this guy is he's basically your rank 4 maker. We do run 2 rank 4s in the deck, which of course isn't a lot, But since you have so many level 5 machine monsters in the deck, he's definitely a good way to just bring something from the graveyard and make a rank 4 with it. Now the next up is a tiny sub-engine, which is the Ancient Gear Wyvern, with the 1 Ancient Gear box. Here, I'll put him right there. Here. So what Ancient Gear Wyvern does is that if he's normal or special summon, you can add 1 Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand except himself, and also you can't set cards for the rest of the turn. And you can only use his effect once per turn. Now if he attacks, your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects until the end of the damage step. Granted, that last effect never really comes up, but the main play with this guy is that you summon him and then search out Ancient Gear Box. And then when Ancient Gear Box is added from the deck or graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add 1 Earth Machine type monster with 500 attack or defense from your deck to your hand, except Ancient Gear Box, and you can only use that effect once per turn. Now the good thing with this is that you can add to your hand Infinitrack Trencher, or Anchor Drill, or Crab Crane, or Tunneler. So ultimately, there are quite a few targets in this deck, and it's almost in a way a convoluted way to summon this guy to get a free card in your hand and then another search to most of your Infinitrack monsters. Last for the monsters, we're going to round out the hand traps with 3 common Ash Blossom. Now you got to make sure they're common so you can really flex on your opponent by letting them know you spent like $6 to $8 on a common that came out really recently. And then also you want to play 3 Effect Veiler because your Ghost Ogres haven't come in the mail yet before you made this deck profile. Now I'm just going to get it out of the way now since I only play 1 trap in the deck, because with Wyvern you can't set the turn you use his effect, so you really are never trying to use any traps. But since it's searchable and it is part of the deck, I play 1 spin turn. Now when you use it, when you activate it, you can use one of the following effects. You can target 1 Earth Machine Xyz monster you control in attack position and 1 monster your opponent controls. Change the battle position of your monster, and if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. Or you can target the Earth Machine Xyz monster you control in defense position and 1 spell and trap your opponent controls. Change that monster to attack, and then destroy your opponent's spell and trap. So it's basically a spell and trap or monster removal. It is determined on whether or not you have an Infinitrack monster in defense or attack position, but if you know you already have this card set, when you summon them, you can just special summon them into one or the other and then change it to whatever you'd like. The next one I have is the 1 Outrigger Extension, which is also searchable, which is why we play both of these at 1. Now, Outrigger Extension, your opponent cannot target Machine Xyz monsters you control with card effects. Once per turn, you can target 1 Infinitrack Xyz monster you control and special summon from your extra deck 1 machine monster that's 2 ranks higher than that target by using that target as material. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Earth Machine monsters. So basically, it's like a continuous rank up spell. You basically have a level 5, a level 7, and a level 9 Infinitrack Xyz, which we'll get to in a minute when we go to the extra deck. But this is basically how to bump up one to the other to the other. Another one we have is Foolish Burial, because some of the Infinitracks do activate in the graveyard, as well as, personally for me, I really like to use the effect of Tunneler, which is the Pot of Avarice in the deck, so I like filling up the graveyard as much as I can with machines so I can get some extra draws going. Because of that, I also play Reasoning. We do play cards in this deck that have multiple levels, whether it be the level 5s, level 4s, even a level 2. Ultimately, I thought it was just like a little spicy tech choice, and it just helps pump some stuff in the graveyard a little bit. Now, the final card in the deck is going to be Monster Reborn. Since we are pumping machines into the graveyard, sometimes we can use this to bring one of those back out. So for some spell and trap removal in the deck, we're going to play 2 Twin Twister. Not only is this spell and trap removal, but again, it helps pump a little extra machine monsters into the graveyard, so that way you can use the different effects that they offer while they're in the graveyard. Next, the card that really makes a lot of plays pop off is going to be 3 Machine Duplication. Now this lets you target 1 machine monster you control with 500 or less attack, and special summon up to 2 monsters from your deck with the same name as that face-up monster. So what you do is you get any machine that in this deck onto the field, and then use the effect of Trencher to tribute that machine and special summon himself, use Machine Dupe, and get 2 more Trenchers out onto the field. This is really great because then you can start using Link plays and Xyz plays and get Trencher in the graveyard, and then you banish Trencher and you can special summon a level 5 or lower Infinitrack from your graveyard onto the field, so he recurs himself almost. He is a once per turn though with that effect, but then you'll have Trenchers in the graveyard, so that way you can do those plays next turn, or even just have him in the graveyard to use the effects of cards like Tunneler. The final card that I play in the deck is a spicy choice of mine that I personally picked, because if you look at the Infinitrack monsters, all of the level 5s share the effect that they can special summon from the hand by tributing a machine monster. On top of that, the effect of Infinitrack Anchor Drill also lets you special summon a machine monster from your hand. So what I'm getting at is you are special summoning a lot of monsters from the hand, and what better way to gain advantage from this than from this very unused and very underrated card, Pinpoint Landing. Now, it is a TCG exclusive, and when it first came out, people were thinking this would go great with Crusadias because they naturally always special summon from the hand. Its effect is if exactly 1 monster is special summoned from the hand to your field, you can draw a card, and you can only use his effect as a hard once per turn. And during your end phase, if you have not drawn a card by his effect, then you send it to the graveyard. So you do have to every turn special summon a monster from your hand, but after the first turn, if this thing's still on the field, then that's a +1 right there. You're doing your natural plays anyway of always special summoning from the hand, so you just get extra draws from it every turn. I know it's not the best card by any means, but I personally like it, and I like that it adds a little bit of a flair and some extra drawing to the deck overall. Hey guys, so the footage that I actually had for the extra deck portion of this deck profile was accidentally corrupted because I'm still new to editing, so this is shot actually like 4 weeks after I originally shot the rest of this deck profile. When I shot the rest of this deck profile, Infinity Chasers was like freshly out, and then school got in the way, and so here I am now. So this portion, when I go over the extra deck, is just a future Jonathan pulling in and talking about it. So first up, we're gonna have 3 Infinitrack Goliath. Now, I know usually you don't run 3 of a Link monster in a deck, but for this guy, I feel like it's definitely necessary. If he's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 Xyz monster you control and attach it to that monster as material, and you can only use this effect of him once per turn, and an Xyz monster whose original type is machine and has this card material gains this effect, and this card cannot be destroyed by card effects. So it basically attaches itself to one of your many machine Xyz we run in the deck, and then it makes it where it can't be destroyed by card effects. So that's definitely good protection. This card actually in the original deck profile that's up next, I didn't really test with it much, but after playing with it, I definitely think this is a slept on card. I haven't really seen it really super hyped up or talked about lately, and maybe that's because machine decks aren't doing a whole lot other than Orchest right now, but I really like the fact that it gives you an extra special summon. What it does is it can't be used as Link material, so it does sometimes clog up the extra monster zone, sadly, but it can't be used as Link material to turn its Link summon, so after, on the next turn, you can Link it away. But during your main phase, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower machine monster from your hand to your zone this card points to. And if that monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one level 4 gadget monster from your deck, which does not apply in this deck. But the thing is, you can use this guy, special summon one of your less than level 5 machine monsters, and then tribute those to special summon one of the level 5 or higher monsters from your main deck, so that have the effect. So the next up is going to be Cleafor Genius, because that one I just like running in machine decks. It has nice arrows, and its effect is this link summon card is unaffected by spell and trap cards and the activated effects of other link monsters, and once per turn you can target one face-up card on each player's field except himself, and both those cards have their effects negated until the end of this turn. When 2 monsters are special summoned at the same time to its zones, you can add one level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand. Since this is not a pendulum deck, that second effect will never go off, but for the most part it's definitely good. And then the final link monster in the deck is this bad boy. It kind of sucks. I've seen some replays of other decks using this card a lot better, like even Zodiacs and like other more Xyz centered decks. This deck doesn't really use Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops to its greatest extent. It does take 3 Xyz monsters as its materials, but it's unaffected by other monsters' effects except other Xyz monsters. It cannot be destroyed by battle except with an Xyz monster, and you can target one Xyz monster in your graveyard and one card your opponent controls, special summon the monster from your graveyard that you chose, and if you do, attach that opponent's card to it as material, and for the rest of the turn, any damage your opponent takes is halved. It's definitely good, and it's a 4K beater on the field. The only issue I have with it is the fact that it does absorb a lot of resources, taking 3 Xyz monsters. And like I said, other decks can sometimes take more advantage of this card than this deck can. Next up for us is going to be number 27, Dreadnought Dreadnoid. Now this guy is 2+ level 4 monsters, and at the end of the battle phase, if he's destroyed an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon from your extra deck one rank 10 or higher machine Xyz monster, and you can use it and its materials as that new Xyz monster's materials. And you can only use this effect once per turn, and if he would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material from him instead. So he has a little built-in protection. Nowadays in 2019, it's not really the best and most practical thing to have effects go off during the battle phase, like when you have to attack or be attacked, but for the most part it's decent. And the one card in this deck that I play for this guy to bring out is the Super Quantum Mech King Great Magnus. Next up, I'm gonna play one Gear Gigant X. Now this guy, he's in 2019, he's not as good as he once was, but he's still basically a Rhoda for the deck. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from him and add one level 4 or lower machine monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And when he leaves the field, you can do something with Geargias, which does not matter for this deck. He's definitely decent. If you were to try to work in some other things that aren't in my extra deck, I would definitely take him out, for he's not used as much as in theory you'd think he's used. Next up is going to be the Cyber Dragon package, which is Nova and Infinity. Now, since we do have a decent amount of level 5 machines, it's a no-brainer, and you could almost guarantee that this would be in there. Cyber Dragon Infinity's effect is the only one that really matters, and that's once per turn you can Xyz summon him by using Cyber Dragon Nova you control as the Xyz material, and then transfer all those materials over. He gains 200 attack for each Xyz material on him, and once per turn, you can target one face-up attack position monster on the field and attach it to him as an Xyz material. And once per turn, during either player's turn when a card or effect is activated, you can detach one Xyz material from him and negate that activation. So this is a little bit of negation going on here, and definitely a must-have card in this deck since it does have so many level 5 machines. And then I'm skipping ahead a little bit in ranks to go to the last non-Infinitrack Xyz monster, which is the rank 9 True King of All Calamities. This doesn't come up a lot, but the level 4 monster in the deck that allows it to have itself and another monster, which would preferably be level 5, both combine their levels and become that combination, would mean that you'd have 2 level 9s on the field. It doesn't happen as frequently as I would like, but it definitely happens enough to warrant this to be in the extra deck. the final 3 cards are going to be River Stormer, Mountain Smasher, and Earth Slicer. River Stormer has the effect that when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can attach that monster to this card as material, and you can only use one of the following effects of him once per turn. You can detach 1 material from him and take 1 Earth Machine monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. And if this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 1 Machine Link monster, special summon this card in defense position. That last effect about special summoning it in defense position, and the first effect about destroying an opponent's monster by battle and attaching it to him, are shared by all 3 of these monsters. Its unique effect was the one that where you attach one and you take an Earth Machine monster from your deck and add it to your hand. So he's the rank 5 Searcher. And then you can rank him up to the next level using the spell card in this deck to Infinitrack Mountain Smasher. His unique effect is you can detach 1 material from this card and it gains 1,000 attack. This one's my least favorite of the 3. Maybe that's why he's the super rare and the other 2 are secret rare. But obviously, having high attack may come in handy sometimes, but for the most part, he doesn't really do much in the combo way of things. The last one, Infinitrack Earth Slicer, its unique effect is you can detach any number of materials from this card and target that many cards on the field and destroy them. So that's really good. You can only use this effect once per turn, so that means that you can't just like pop something, do some more things, pop another thing. You kind of have to pick all your targets at once, but ultimately, that's the extra deck.